Welcome back to a brand new video. In this video, I'll be showing you the foundation of JavaScript, mainly variables, data types, and output. So this is a video for beginners so you can understand how variables and how data types actually work in JavaScript. So I will basically be talking about how you can define variables, the different type of data types, how you can output inside the terminal, and etc. So you can get started on your JavaScript journey. This will not be any theory overload, it will only show the core mechanics you will need. And over time, I will be adding into this playlist, also teaching how to make basic functions and etc. So let's get started. Okay, so first of all, you have to have Visual Studio Code, which is the IDE I use. So you can go to the two links in the description below to actually set yourself up. At the side, in extensions, you already have these JavaScript snippets ready. If you don't, you can just go into extensions, type JavaScript, and then after that, just download the top 4 that you will see. 2 will be from Microsoft and 2 from others, but they are trusted. And then after that, you will also need Node.js, which is what I use. I also have the link in the description below. What you have to do is select the LTS v24.15 version over here, go down, and then after that, click on the Windows installer. And you also have installers for Mac OS and Linux. After you set everything up, which I am guessing you already have, you can start and follow this tutorial. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing is that we are going to be starting with the absolute basics, which means putting and output something inside your terminal. So first of all, what you have to do is make a file by clicking on the file icon and naming it index.js. After that, you can type in console.log. What this basically does is that it will log something in your console. So this is your terminal right over here, and this is used to output whatever is inside these parentheses into your terminal. So the code for this is console.log, and then you can type in anything under these parentheses, and then after that put on a colon. So you need to add this colon over here so that JavaScript actually counts this. This is the main syntax of JavaScript that you have to follow. So let's go through it again. Console, so you can see var console.log to log something, and then after that put quotation marks, hello world, so hello world, and then after that a colon after the whole thing outside the parentheses. Now to run this code, you can go right here into your terminal and type in node index.js, which is your file name. Let's run this, and you can see that you have successfully output hello world inside your terminal. So you basically have to remember the syntax for lots of things, but this is how to safely and for a beginner input something inside your terminal. Okay, so the next thing is we are going to be learning how to define a variable. But before we learn that, we actually have to learn the different type of variables that are there. So the first type of variable is called an integer. Now, integers is not what it is called in JavaScript. It is actually called number. So, in other programming languages, they call it integer, but in JavaScript, they call it number. So this is basically the name of the number data type. And whether it is, a whole number or a number with a decimal point, it is only going to be called number. So that is going to be the first data type. The next data type is called a string. Now, what is a string? So a string is basically a sequence of characters stored as text, and then it is going to be enclosed in quotes. It can be double quotation marks or single quotation marks. If you want to learn more, I have actually put a link to W3 Schools in the description below. You can actually go to that website and you can go through their JavaScript section, because it is very good and it can also help you to learn more of JavaScript. So if you want an example of what is a string, you can see the console.log that we put over here. Hello world. This hello world is a sequence of characters stored as text, and it's enclosed in quotes. So this hello world is considered a string. So you have to use quotes, double quotation quotes, single quotation quotes, and actually I'll also teach you about these quotes, the one over your tab. So it represents text but not numbers, and it is immutable. Immutable is what I'm going to be going through later on. And then lastly, we have Booleans, which is going to be the last data type we are going to be going through today. Booleans, there's not much you need to know about this. It is basically true and false. It can also, and that is basically it. That is all Boolean is about. So now that we know the three different data types, which is string, numbers, and Booleans, we will now start to see how we can define a variable. Now, what does defining a variable mean? Defining a variable means something like this. Here we are naming a variable. So okay, we are naming a variable and we are putting the value of the variable as 10. So you can see that our variable name is a, it is equal to 10, and then we have a colon. Remember, after every line in JavaScript, you have to put a colon, unless it's like the start of a function or etc., which I will be going through in later videos. But over here, you can see that we typed in let a is equal to 10. Now, there are two ways to actually define a variable. The start is var, and then we have let. So just now I used let, but then we can also use var. Now, what is the difference between these two? Let is basically block scoped. So let's say I'm going to do like a basic example so that you can understand this. So I have made an if condition over here, and I am going to be logging A and B. So now over here, you can see that inside this block, consider these as blocks. I named one var and I have named one letb. These are two keywords that you can define variables by. And now we can actually start this. So node index.js to run this. You can see that for the first one, the output is 10, but then over here it says B is not defined, even though it is defined here. That is what let does. It cannot be redeclared inside the same scope, so it is more predictable. But let's say you want to use let throughout your whole project. You can define it outside and then redefine it inside over here. Now, let me show you how this will actually work. So you can see that the var was actually defined. So I'm only showing this to you is because I would actually like to use let, because it is more modern standard. As a beginner, you can use both, but if you want good practice and you're gonna go like up, to intermediate, I would recommend that you learn how to use the let variable type. So for you, I would recommend using the let variable type because it is more predictable and not many errors can come. Okay, so now we know how to define a variable. But what if we want to change what the variable is? Because what if, like, okay, the variable is 10, but now I want the variable to actually be 20. So how do we change the value of a variable? We basically do the same thing, but without the let. So we take away the keyword that says this is defining a variable, and then you can just use that anytime you want. So now you know how to define a variable. At the start, when you're defining a variable, you have to put let a is equal to 10, and then after that, if you want to define it again, after you have already defined it for the first time, you want to change the value of the variable, you can define it again, but without the keyword. If you have any questions, you can ask me in the comment section below and I will explain it to you. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to basically learn type of. So this is actually not a core concept to learn, but this is just a fun thing that you can do. Type of basically shows you the type of whatever you have put inside. So if I say I want to see the type of A, and I basically run this thing, so node index.js, you can see that it says this A is a number, which I said because any number in JavaScript is saved as number. If I want to see what is the value of h, you can see that it is a string. And even if I put a number inside the string, so let's say I want to put a Boolean, which I said before is a true and false. So if I put true over here, you can see that it is undefined. Okay, so now what we can do is go into strings. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is know what a string is, which I already said. I already said the rules of strings, you must use quotes. But now what is immutability? Immutability means strings cannot be modified directly. So let me make like an example script for you. So let me make an example script for you over here. Okay, so over here you can see that using let, I defined a variable named hello world, and then after that text 0 is equal to h. I will explain this line later. And then console.log text. So you can see that it still shows hello world. Now what you may be asking is, okay, what is this? So for this you have to learn, like you have to really understand JavaScript. So let's make this something like this. So hello world. Okay, and after that you can see that this is 1 character, 2 character, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10 characters. So now you can also see that I put numbers here below each one. So what does it mean? In JavaScript, the first character starts as 0. So that's why I numbered each of them over here. You can see that h is not the first character, it is the 0th character. So then it's going to be 9 characters in total instead of 10. So the first character will be indicated as 0. So if we try to actually check the other character, so let's put console.log text 0, you can see that it shows h. And then after that, if I type in 1 over here, it will show e. if I type in like 9, it will show E, and then if I type in 11, it will show, oops, sorry. If I type in like 15, like a really high number, it will show undefined because it does not, that big of a character does not exist in our string. So this is basically checking what character it is. So we can put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever, and then it will show like the corresponding character in that position. So now that you know what it actually means as 0, we can now learn something else. So string concatenation. What is string concatenation? String concatenation basically is adding two strings. Adding two strings meaning, let's say hello. So hello plus world is equal to hello world, because this is the first string that, and then after that what you're doing is that this is the second string. So both of these is now hello world because we added them together. So let's actually test this out. Let's make let's define a variable and call it John, and then let's make a last name and call it Doe. So you can see that now we have two defined variables, one with let first is equal to John and the second with let last is equal to Doe. And now let's type in console.log, and then after that what I'm going to do is basically the two variables added together. So first plus last, and if I check this out, you can see that it will show John Doe. So concatenation is the addition of two strings, and you can actually use this, but then after that, if you see over here, oops, sorry, node index.js, you can see that it can also concatenate with integers. So you can also concatenate a string and an integer in JavaScript. Now let's go into template literals. What this is now let's say you want to add a space in between. You know, since John is the first name and then after that Doe is the last name, you want to add a space in between. So there are two ways that you can learn to do this. The beginner way would be to do first plus space plus last. So you're basically concatenating first with a space with a last. So if you try that out, it will show John Doe with a space inside because you're concatenating three different strings. So this is basically how to, add a space in between. But now there is another simple method that you can also use to concatenate all of these, and it's called template literals. Now how this works is, all you have to do is type in console.log and, put in this type of quotation marks. So I'll actually zoom it in so that you can see better over here. This type of quotation marks, it is usually below your escape tab and beside your 1, and then after that you can basically type in a $sign. So type in a $sign, curly brackets, and then first, and then after that a $sign, curly brackets, and last. So what this basically does is it will show you the same output as the first one over there. So if I run node index.js again over here, it'll show the same thing, John Doe. But what we're doing here is that this is another way if you do not want all those messy pluses around. You actually do not need to use this. This is a very beginner concept. The first one. The second one, template literals, is a bit advanced, but it is good if you know how to use it, because pluses can also get quite messy if you're handling long strings. So a dollar sign and curly brackets. That is how to use template literals. Now, the third last thing for string is going to be, how to basically find the length of a string. So I'm just gonna tell you some basic commands that you can do with string so that you can actually find out more new stuff. So the first is going to be how to find the length. All you have to do is type in first dot length. You run that, and then it will show you the length of it. Now the length is going to be actually how many characters it is. It is not, so it is going to show 4. It is not going to show 3 because 1, 2, 3, 4. And then after that, okay, my syntax was wrong there. And then after that, I will show you how to change the case. So let's do the same thing. But now what we want to do is text first to uppercase with brackets, and this will basically turn your string and put it into fully uppercase. And then opposite to uppercase is going to be lowercase to lowercase, and then it will show the lowercase of the string. Okay, so now since we have done case conversion, we can now go into extracting parts of a string. Extracting parts of a string. What is it mainly about? Okay, so extracting parts of a string, we already have the a is equal to hello, so I am defining a new variable. So let a equal to hello, so let a equal to hello, and then after that colon. Okay, now how do we actually slice it? So let's type console.log because we want to show it in our console, and just type text.slice to slice it. So a.slice. Now what does slicing actually mean? So before this, I taught you that the string has a specific index, and the index starts from 0. So in the string, 0 is H, 1 is E, 2 is L, 3 is L, and 4 is O. So cutting it basically means something like this. So let me just show it here. So what's HEL? So what's happening is that it is slicing it. So it is taking 0, which is the first index we're going to start at, and then after that it's going to end at 3, which is the second index that we are slicing. So if I type JavaScript in here, JavaScript, and then you can see that 0 is J and so on, and if I put 0 to 3, you can see that it will say, okay, so the first one, the second one, the third one, and now there is a problem. You might be saying, hey, we said it to cut 3, but it is not including 3 over here. This is because, okay, this is going to be a bit confusing, but when you are slicing, it returns a portion of the string. So it's at start and then it's at end. So it will return a portion of the string from the start index to the end index, which is excluded. So this end index over here is actually going to be excluded. So 3 is going to be excluded. So if we put like, let's say 9 so that we can see it better. And then let's run this. You can see that 9 is excluded and the rest are all included inside our string. And then after that we have substring. So how substring works, so a dot substring. So how substring actually works is that you can see over here for substring, you can basically, what you can do is it will, let's say we type in 4 and we run this, it will take out the first 4, as you can see over here. The end index is also excluded, so it will remove the first 3 and then it will show whatever is there after this. And lastly, dot include. So dot include is basically going to be dot includes, so script. So you can see over here, it shows that script is inside your script. Now, lastly, we're into Booleans. So let's put let age is equal to 18. So let age is equal to 18. We're not going to be spending much time on Booleans. So now let's put console.log. So now let's put age is greater than, so greater than equal to 18. That's it. And let's run this. You can see that it shows true, which is a Boolean. And if we say age is greater than 18, it will show false because it's not a Boolean. And then after that, this is it for variables and output in JavaScript. I hope you like this tutorial. If you have any questions, you can ask me in the description and the comments below. The description has all the links that you actually need for the tutorial. And see you in the next video where I will be explaining a bit more on JavaScript and we are going to be moving on to different parts.